Okay, now I'm going to give you a slightly different type of within-subject design. This is a study design I use frequently for my asthma research. I do asthma education research, and let's just pretend for the sake of argument I wanted to run a study where I wanted to take 3 adults with asthma and I wanted to run them through a self-management program. And then I wanted to see how they were at the end of the study. Let's say that the thing I wanted to measure here, the dependent variable, was quality of life on a 15-point scale, with a higher number indicating a better quality of life. So if I were to do that, the idea would be, how would I actually set that up and make that actually happen? And the answer to that is actually not that complicated. What I would probably do is take these 3 people, measure them before I run the study, and then measure them again after I run the study. And so this type of design, it's a within-subject design because everybody would be serving as their own control. But this is a within-subject design that I call an intervention design, because the intervention is occurring in between the pre-test and the post-test. And so it's kind of an interesting design. It's very sensitive to hopefully what my program does. And we use it a lot in intervention type of research to really see the effects of the intervention behaviorally or medically on patient outcomes. And so the nature of the design is kind of interesting. You would actually measure them before and after, so those would be the 2 levels. The pre would be one level and the post would be another, and so you'd probably call that variable give it a name, and you'd call it time of testing. So the independent variable would be the time of testing. The 2 levels are pre and post. It's different than the previous one, which is more standardized in psychology of condition with organized versus random. This is an intervention type of design, so you're actually putting the intervention in between and just seeing where they fall here. So in this case, it's time of testing, pre-test and post-test. The dependent variable is quality of life, and we'd go and measure them. In section B, I've given you some data here. 3 subjects, which is a very small sample size again, and you can see for subject number 1, they started with a very low quality of life, a 1 before, but then after they were a 5. Subject 2 started a little bit higher with quality of life as a 4, and then went to a 9. And then subject 3 started at a 7 and went to a 13. What's really cool about the within-subject intervention design is it doesn't matter where a subject starts out. The fact that subject 3 starts out so much better than subject 1 doesn't matter. What matters is the relative improvement of each subject through the intervention. A within-subject design removes these individual differences, so the key variable here is the amount of improvement. So if I go to the data chart next, you can see that if I get the pre-test mean, the pre-mean is what, a 4 here, and then the post-test mean is what, a 9 here. So 4 to 9, that's a pretty big treatment effect of 5. You have 3 people in each group, standard deviation 3 or 4, standard error of the mean of 1.5, 1.7, and 2.3. So you would get this SPSS printout. The numerator for the t-test would be a 5, because that's the difference between the 4 and the 9. The denominator would be the 0.57. And so if you did the t-test, you'd get a t-test result of 8.77. 2 degrees of freedom because you have 3 subjects, and so the idea here is there's a significant improvement, probability 0.013, and so in this particular case, T with 2 degrees of freedom equals 8.77, P equals 0.013. The Tausman asthma program led to a significant improvement in quality of life. So that is the idea behind this, and I've given you a little homework to do. In a second situation, the homework is basically, if I give you data where it starts off with pre-test 1, 4, and 7, and the post-test 2, 6, and 10, do you actually have evidence that the program actually worked? Hopefully you'll find out that it didn't quite work quite right here. So with that being said, I'll let you go off to the races. Please send me drafts of these things, and I hope it works out well for you. Thanks. Bye-bye.